Hi everybody, it's Dr. Chabot, and in this video we are going to look at and derive the magnetic dipole moment. So we're going to start with just a current loop. It's a square current loop of wire in a magnetic field, and I have two different magnetic fields shown here so that we can look at two different orientations. So on the left I have here the magnetic field is into the page, and I have this current loop that has this clockwise current. Let's just look at our force from IL cross B at all parts of this loop. So if I do I cross B and I end up drawing my force on all parts of this loop from the right hand rule, so this is good practice for the right hand rule, you will see, right, that in this case all the force does, those magnetic forces are just acting to expand the loop. So the net force equals 0, and that I'll say something that sounds sort of obvious, but that there's no rotation here in this loop, right? Because none of these forces are going to be acting to spin the loop. All right, so the reason I say that is if we remember back to electric dipoles, that's what they like to do. They like to line up with the field, and we're going to have a similar idea here. So now let's look at this orientation on the right, where I have the magnetic field pointing towards the right. Let me do I cross B on each portion here. Well, here my I is parallel to B, so on the top and the bottom segments, there's actually no force on those wires. And then when I do the left segment and I go I cross B, I actually get a force that's going to be into the page. So the force is into the page. And then over here on the right hand side, I'm going to get a force that is out of the page. So now if you imagine this loop, and there's, going to be these two forces acting on it, their forces are going to act to spin the loop, right, here, so that there is a net torque here. So the sum of the forces is still 0, but now the sum of the torques is not equal to 0. This loop will spin. So this loop is actually the magnetic dipole. It just like if we go back and we recall, take a second and let's recall the electric dipole. What made it a dipole? Why were we calling it this dipole? What it was, right, is that if I had a minus charge and a plus charge and they were separated by some distance d, and they were placed in an electric field, like so, then the force on each of them, because they're equal and opposite forces, would cause it to rotate, right? So we had this rotation in that field. And so we had that it was just a configuration of charges that created something that wanted to rotate. And it wanted to rotate so that if we then, defined the dipole moment vector P, it wanted to rotate so that P lined up with E. This was going to be what it wants. And we had various equations associated with this. We had that the torque was equal to P cross E, meaning that the P wanted to line up with E, and that the electric potential energy was equal to negative P dot E. That we had the lowest energy state when it was where it wanted to be, and the highest energy state where it was as far away from where it wanted to be as it could get, which was anti-aligned. Okay, so we're going to do a similar thing now, but for this loop of wire in a magnetic field. So if we go ahead and we just look over here, and I'll take this case again and just copy it down, then we're going to want to decide what matters in this case. So I'm going to give some lengths here. So let's go ahead and call this length, the height length here, let's just call that H. And then let's call this over here, let's just call that W as just the dimensions. And so if we talk about what torque is, and torque is equal to our R cross F, we're going to have the torque from each side. So the sum of the torques is going to be equal to 2 times the torque from one side. Because again, there's no torque on the top where there's no force, but we just have the left and the right side. So if we go ahead and we look at the torque here, we would have the sum of the torques is going to be 2, and then the torque from one side, I can notice that the R in the R cross F is W over 2. So I'll say W over 2. And then the force is my magnetic force. And this magnetic force is simply going to be my the magnitude of that magnetic force, because everything's perpendicular, is ILB sine of 90. So W over 2 for my R, and then times my current, I, times my L, which is the length in the field. So I'm going to call that H. And then B. And then here the sine of 90 is just 1. Okay, so bear with me. And so if I write out this whole torque, what I end up with is I see the 2's cancel, and so I just end up with I times WH times B. Well, notice that WH is just the area of the loop, so that we can then say that the net torque on the loop is going to be equal to I times the area times B. And this was again our maximum torque when we had derived it, because we had the sine of 90. In general, we can make a more general thing, which is that the torque would be IAB sine theta, which now you're seeing what we can get, which is that the torque is going to then be able to be written as a cross product. So we, in order to do that, want to start to define some vectors here. So we definitely have a vector B. So our vector B is already defined. But what we want to do now is define our magnetic dipole moment. So our magnetic dipole moment, that's going to be mu is what we use for that. And just like our electric dipole moment, which depended, our electric dipole moment, if we remember the magnitude of it, the magnitude of the electric dipole moment was equal to the charge on one of the charges, the magnitude of the charge times the distance between them. So properties of the configuration. And the same thing here. So we're going to define this magnetic dipole moment based on properties of its configuration. How much current does it carry? I'm going to leave a little space there because I'm going to add in something soon. How much area it has, but then also how many windings. I did a single loop, but imagine that I had 2 or 3 windings of my coil, then I would have that. So this is the number of windings. This is my current, and A is my area. So that's now my magnetic dipole moment there, where that's the magnitude of it. I'll talk about the direction in a second, but now what we can write is my torque as, in a direct analogy to my electric dipole, the torque is mu cross B. So this here is our derivation of the torque for a magnetic dipole. It wants to rotate to have mu line up with B. So it wants to have that configuration again. And so this is going to be the lowest magnetic potential energy, which is mu sub B, or just U sub B. And so we can also write an energy equation that U sub B equals negative mu dot B. Direct analogy to our electric dipole. They behave the same. So now let's visualize it for this loop. So I'm going to draw my loop again. So let me draw my current loop. And then for this one here, I had the magnetic field pointed to the right, right? And so then that created us having a force into the page over on the left-hand side and a force out of the page on the right-hand side. And that the other, sides had zero force. So this one is going to want to rotate as shown. So by definition, we just kind of have built in, kind of just like we define the electric dipole moment to have the correct direction to make these equations nice and to make mu want to line up with B and P line up with E. Then what we're going to say is we're going to define the direction of mu as follows. So if I have this loop with a clockwise direction, like that, then I'm going to define to have mu is going to be into the page. So it's always going to have to then, in this case, be kind of perpendicular to the plane of the loop. So it's basically along like our area vector, and which way it is depends on whether it's a clockwise, or if I draw my counterclockwise current, then this would be a mu out of the page. Again, perpendicular to the plane of that loop. So we're going to define the direction of mu here, and then we defined the magnitude here. All right, one last note I'm going to say, because this does, again, it acts just like other dipoles, is the loop doesn't need to be square. So it doesn't need to have this rectangular shape. I just drew it that way because it was easier to divide out and do the derivation. If I can have here, for example, a circular loop with a clockwise current, this is still a dipole. So this still has a mu associated with it. And the diagrams for this is if I have this as my mu, then we end up here with the mu is working upward for that particular orientation. And then if I have the opposite orientation, then my mu is down. So the same rules apply for the clockwise and the counterclockwise. There is a nice little right-hand rule. It's a different right-hand rule. This is the right-hand rule for mu. Not the same as the one that is for torque, or is for cross product. So it's not the same as the cross product. And in fact, it's quite different. This one, you take your right hand, it's still a right hand rule because we, use our right hand. And you basically assume that you have arrows on your fingertips and they're kind of curved like this. And you just curve your fingers in the direction of the current. So for example, if we look at this one that I drew here, see how it's a clockwise rotation. And so if I put my fingers along that, I here will get my thumb points into the page. So the right hand rule here is that your fingers curl along the current, and then your thumb is going to point along you. And so it's a completely separate right hand rule. We just use it in order for finding the direction of this magnetic moment, magnetic dipole moment, so that then we can apply these equations for torque and energy. And we can then imagine this dipole spinning in a field, which, as we're going to see, is really the foundation for electric motors. We have now made something with electricity have mechanical motion and start spinning.